Hi, my name is Teresa Schultz, and I will be presenting on the first movement of Schubert's Sonata in A minor, Opus 164. I will begin with a formal overview of the piece, which will show a diagram of the main themes and sections of the first movement. Since the sonata is a longer piece, the diagram will just focus on graphing the large sections instead of each individual phrase. I will then go over the main themes and their characteristics, and then we can listen to the sonata before we analyze it any further. The movement is in sonata form with a two-part exposition. While the phrase types are not normal in this sonata, it does use the regular structure of sonata form. The P theme begins in the home key of A minor and presents the two first basic ideas, which are extended using stretching. The transition begins in the relative major of C and moves to F. The transition includes continuation features that were missing in the actual P theme. The secondary theme continues in F major until the beginning of the closing theme in measure 53. The closing theme returns to A minor before the repeat of the exposition. There is also an extra section added between the closing theme and the development, which I chose to label as a bridge in G flat major. The development begins in the dominant key of E major and moves to A flat major using repeated sequences. The transition begins in A major and ends with a cadence leading into the recapitulation beginning in the predominant key of D minor. The recapitulation is very similar to the exposition, but the closing theme is in A major instead of in A minor. Schubert does not return to A minor until the coda, which reintroduces the P theme. I will briefly explain the characteristics of each of the main themes before we listen to the entire sonata. Schubert uses two very different themes using two main rhythmic patterns, a dotted 8/16 rhythm and a dotted quarter rhythm. The P theme is made up of a powerful opening with two descending patterns and the dotted 8/16 rhythm. It is contrasted by the calmer secondary and closing themes. The P theme continues into the transition that includes continuation features. The calmer secondary theme uses a pattern of ascending thirds and fourths in the dotted quarter rhythm. The closing theme is similar to the secondary theme, using the dotted quarter rhythm and a calming repeated eighth notes in the left hand. All of the themes have a very loose phrase structure, which is different from more conventional sonatas, where the P theme and S theme have a tighter structure that is loosened in the development. I could not find a completely normal example of a Kaplan theme type in this movement. Schubert uses stretching and sequential fragmentation that creates phrases that are much longer than the Kaplan models. For example, in the first 5 measures, he uses stretching of the dominant to cause a longer than normal basic idea segment and seems to be missing any continuation that would make a sentence. But in the transition, the continuation functions are present, which is why I labeled it as the primary theme becomes the TR, since they seem to go together in the sentence structure if you had taken out the stretching of the dominant. The TR section includes the fragmentation that was missing in the P theme to create the continuation, but it does not include the cadential material needed to complete the sentence until the very beginning of the secondary theme. Since there was no example of a normal Kaplan phrase model in the actual sonata, I decided to make my own. So I took the first 4 measures from the P theme and connected them to the first 3 measures of the transition, and then added a cadence to the end to complete the sentence structure. And so this is what I came up with for what possibly could be the condensed sentence structure for the P theme. So one unusual harmonic event in the sonata is in measures 16 through 21 in the transition. He has a sequence of one more time techniques, it seems like, since he starts, it's in E flat major, and he has a repeated B flat, which could, it seems like, cadence to E flat, but instead we go from B flat to C. And he could cadence to the F if he ends with the F in the soprano, but instead he keeps going with his sequence until measure 28. So it seems like it could have ended twice, but it keeps going until he finally reaches his intended cadence in measure 28. One performance recommendation I have for this piece is to adhere to the accents shown in the closing theme. Some performers choose to use them and some don't, but I find the accents act as kind of a surprise in the middle of the much calmer closing theme. One example of a performer that chooses not to use the accents is Kempf. And to contrast that, a performer who does use the accents is H.J. Lim, and it kind of takes on a different personality when you add the accents into the closing theme. Now, if you choose to perform the piece, you can choose how much of an accent you decide to put in. Since it is pianissimo, it doesn't have to be as much of an accent as she does, or you could choose not to use it at all. It is the performer's choice. I'm a big fan of Schubert's Lieder and thought that it would be fun to find a longer piece to analyze for this project. I enjoyed listening to and analyzing this piece throughout this semester because Schubert uses so many different expansion techniques. It was fun to try to piece together where the sections of the regular phrase model began and ended and to see how he pulled apart the normal phrase model. I also found the return of the P theme in the coda very surprising. It sounds as if the piece could be starting over, but it's been modified to use as an ending, so Schubert has the first movement of his sonata come full circle, ending the same way that it began.